But if someone says that, okay, Brie, at the age of 20, I'm perfect. I don't need to change anything. Like
A
you still
20
have
year
like
old would say that though.
well, the 20-year-old would say that, right? Like you still have 65 more years. Like,
Yeah.
you don't even know what you don't know.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like, isn't that kind of crazy how some people can maybe be arrogant in their ignorance, or maybe they can use their ignorance as a shield to protect the breeze from the world, the trains from the world, from getting too close. Because if you get close enough and you bring out what I'm sensitive about, what I'm insecure about, then I can't have that. I need to remove you. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think that it's a very real thing. I think that a lot of insecurities, people who have a lot of insecurities or shame, so they talk about like stages of healing, right? And one of the first stages is denial, like the first stage is denial, right? Like not knowing that you're needing to heal. Um, and so they might be aware, they might be in denial or they might be aware. And that's just how some people manage. That's how they do life, and that's how they engage. And they're, for the most part, um, I mean, I believe that humans in general, I want to believe everybody, but I don't believe everybody, but almost everybody is good-hearted and good-natured, right? Um, I wish I could say everybody, but I don't. I don't think it's everybody. Most everybody. And so, I think that some people they're just unconscious of how they are and how some of their behaviors are. Like there's a whole sect of psychology that talks about our unconscious. It's a Jungian style of psychology. So, yeah.
How do you think that that type of person then would impact their relationships, whether it's romantic or friendship?
So people who um, are more unconscious or unaware or rigid in their ability to change or see themselves, how they would affect their relationships, I mean, is they become hardened in a certain way. And it has, depending on the type of person that they've partnered with, I mean, it can be injuring to the partner, or the partner could be very strong and not allow it to bother them. And the partner could love that person through it. And the other person could heal, right? But that's usually not what happens. What usually happens is that people end up it ends up making the other person, it shrinks them down, right? It dims them down. And oftentimes, if it's a person that has a tendency towards codependent behavior, they're going to start taking it on and believing that the issue is them, right? And maybe on some level, they know that it's not, but on another level, they're going to feel like it is and start operating and making choices to tiptoe around, not to bring this up, And so then they don't get to really shine and be who they are in the relationship. And so intimacy wedges itself apart and there's more ruptures in the relationship. So instead of there being a nice, unified harmony between the two, it's a ruptured and it gets more and more divided. And again, that's an overview, but depending on the person, it can affect them in more unpleasant, adverse ways.
And then my concern for that person who's in a relationship with someone like that is that if they continue to give, to your point, or if they continue to tiptoe around it and maybe ignore it, and then in turn ignore their feelings because they're probably being hurt by it, if that relationship were to end and they're the ones who end up getting dumped, they're going to feel a sense of like, I'm discarded. I gave all of this. I tried to make it work. And then when they get into their next relationship, that's why I feel bad because they're bringing in unhealed trauma. And as you mentioned, there's a codependency. They're going from that where they gave so much, got back so little. Now they're in a new relationship. I don't see them giving as much, which is unfair to the new person that enters.
No, true. Sometimes people want to try harder than they did the time before. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they're more jaded, right? It depends on their own makeup, of their own personality and their own unique traits to them. But you know, with time though, it does erode. I believe it does erode people when they have, one or two experiences, they might still feel like the next one I can do it. But if they're on like four or five or six, I would agree with you that they can become jaded and just like waiting for the other shoe to drop or like, you know, letting go of their dreams and desires of, or suppressing them of like wanting marriage or whatever, wanting to build a beautiful little family. So I think, yeah, people can, I agree.